Hey everybody, welcome back inside another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today's March 23rd, 2020, and another week and my things have changed again, haven't they? Lord. Well, we all knew this was coming. Anybody who actually really paid attention knew this was coming. It's unfortunate, but we knew it was coming. Um, the way this seems to be affecting the hobby the most as of this moment in time would be that Tamiya USA has announced that they are closing their offices and their warehouse. So there will now be a run on Tamiya paint and glue, I suppose. Um, but the irony there is, well, you may not be able to buy it anyway because, well, at least here in Pennsylvania, where we are now at the point of a howling cat that is also upset about the fact that the government has imposed a shutdown of everything that isn't not considered a life-sustaining business. And while there have been something like 10,000 waivers filed against what that means in terms of the 6 pages of documents that said what is and what isn't a life-sustaining business, hobby shops, so far as I know, have not managed to unwaver themselves out of that problem. You know, let's face it, I don't really need a hobby shop to sustain my life at this point. I am my own hobby shop sustaining my own life at this point. But be that as it may, keep that in mind if shortages should appear. People panic by pretty much everything, and so this would not terribly surprise me if the only place to be getting Tamiya stuff is from outside of the country at some point this like early summer as this all winds itself down. I mean, it will pass. We will get through this. But in the meantime, it's going to be a little dicey here, especially for, like I said, the next month or so. Uh, I would also assume, based on the fact of the lockdown, the lockdown's not really a real term. I've seen a lot of people be all, going, "I'm locked in my house," unless you actually have an infection and you're under physical quarantine, like that dude in Kentucky who got it and thought he could just go wherever he wanted to, and they locked him in his house with a police officer out front. You're not actually locked in your house. You're supposed to stay at home. They didn't say you have to stay in your home. Go outside, walk around the block. Good grief. Maintain 6 feet of distance from your neighbors. Do the old home improvement thing. Talk to your neighbors through the fence, right? You're going stir crazy for your own reasons because nobody has physically locked you in your house. You're choosing to stay in your house. That's a difference. But those lockdowns in California could possibly also be affecting Pegasus, which is now the owner of Mobius. I've not seen anything from them specifically saying one way or the other whether they're open or closed, but they really don't seem to use their social media, and their website's been a wreck for years, so you really can't tell anything from there. But I would assume that they're also not an essential business. Now that really doesn't affect directly anybody necessarily at the moment because those next batch of Mobius kits aren't supposed to come out until May. That may still be a little early in terms of when everything's going to get lifted, no matter what some people may be saying from daises in Washington, D.C. But you could see where that would be a minimal effect, where you could always just be like, okay, well, the things came in, and we distributed it in June instead of May, and it's not that big of a deal. Now, what remains to be seen, thought I was going to sneeze. Good grief, I don't want everybody to go, I got COVID, run away from their computers. Would be whether or not the mandatory shutdown of non-essential businesses in Illinois affects Revell's distribution, because they should have a batch of kits coming in April. They have not, as of yet, shipped out, or at least people have not received the Chevy Love, which is being produced in the United States. Now the U.S. production, and we saw from Salvino's JR, where Salvino's JR has said they're staying open, is because, of course, they're renting space in a facility, not owning the facility. Like, we're talking back in the old days where Morton Grove and Dyersville were producing kits, that might be a problem. But Salvino's is leasing time at that place in California. Obviously, Revell is leasing space because they're storing the tools at this point. But they're leasing time and space at that place in the Chicago suburbs. And those plastic injection molding facilities are making other things, probably bottles and containers for food or sanitary items, and so they are staying open, and they're just running the kits on the side because that's not their primary business. Their primary business is doing other packaging and containers. But how this affects Revell in the sense of those kits that were coming over from May, like the '69 Chevelle and things like that, whether or not they got shipped because China's back open again. But whether there's going to be anybody in Revell to receive that container when it shows up or distribute the container beyond that, that remains to be seen. I know Tower Hobbies, which is, of course, a branch of Horizon at this point, was saying that they're trying to stay in business in the sense of running their mail order, but if they can't get anything in, they can't send anything out. So it all remains to be seen. Clarity will go along as it goes. I know a lot of people want, the next model kits, but most of us really have no need for any more model kits. It's simply a factor of want. I will say right now, until the U.S. Postal Service suspends operations, should that ever come to pass, because you guys won't realize that all the mail behind the scenes moves by independent contractors, other than the priority mail gets flown around by FedEx. But even then, it gets moved by independent contractors. The only time that postal employees touch stuff is when you pick it up from the post office and when they take your packages to a distribution center. Beyond that, it's all us filthy truckers making sure your mail gets around. So long as we stay healthy, you're all right. I do have something coming over from Japan right now, and I'm interested to see how and when it will clear customs and get shipped out of New York City. That was not a concern when I sent it, and now New York City is the epicenter of everything that's going on in this country, so we might leave that outside for a couple days. We'll see. At any rate, let's talk about model kits. There's no new announcements this week, per se, although we do have formal Hong Kong pre-orders for the next two Nunu B-Max, or as I call it, Bima Nunu models, which is going to be I'm not sure what the year is, I think it's 1991, Tour de Course FINA liveried version of their Toyota Celica ST165 rally car. And then there was also going to be a BMW M3 in a 1991 Japanese touring car, Autotech livery, which is the banana yellow BMWs that ran for years and years and years in JTC. So those two are just basically decals being put into existing kits. Those are both April pre-orders in Hong Kong, so it remains to be seen where those will actually end up coming in. But those were sort of teased on a couple of different international vendors, but I don't believe what the dates are going to be until I start seeing them pop up in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong gets that stuff first, being that it is a tunnel drive away from Macau. Hong Kong, by the way, has done a stunning job of managing to not get themselves infected over there. They had something like 360 cases in a city-state of 11 million people because they had SARS, and they remembered that, oh yeah, we shouldn't touch other people when we're sick. Amazing. Hopefully the United States will learn some lessons out of this in terms of communicable diseases. So those are really, that's not. I don't think I've told you guys about them. You may have seen about them, but those will be the new announcements. So we have just a few kits this week. It's kind of a quiet time right now, not so much because of coronavirus, but because the majority of Aoshima's kits shipped earlier than they normally would this month. So this is pretty much like it for them. And then we have one Hasegawa kit as well. But first up, the thing that I think everybody has been anxiously waiting for and didn't quite make the cutoff for the last video is this, the Revell US reissue of the 29 Model A Roadster 2-in-1. So yes, this kit has come back out there. You may have seen that this kit is already back out there. Several people here in the YouTube community have posted videos about getting them. I saw the video. I want to say it was Tom at Rambo 69 that did the out-of-box review on this. Oh, I should have looked that up to make sure before I said it. So I'm going to look it up while I'm talking about this. The big thing here that obviously everybody knows about is the fact that this has had the engine and the wheels swapped out of the 1930 Ford. I think that was probably the plan with this anyway, prior to somebody dropping it on the floor. Because the engines and wheels and whatnot have always been designed to be interchangeable. That was the whole point of the gist of the kit in the first place. Yes, it was. It was Rambo 69. Okay, I want to make sure. Anyway, he has a video out about the kit. I'm going to link it in the description if I remember. Usually there's a couple of day gap between when I film this and when I actually edit it. So he did a comparison of the original 29 Ford to the retooled, if you will, version of the 29 Ford. It's not new tooling in a, oh my, look at all this new neat stuff, as it is. There are several inserts to the parts runners that were retooled because that's how badly damaged the tool was in the first place. So I don't believe, at least from giving that video a cursory look, I didn't really get a chance to watch it like in depth, was that that stuff has been like recreated and may have some, you know, better detailing and things like that. Now they've had a chance to go back in it. Obviously, because you're retooling stuff from scratch, you can go into the CAD files and move stuff around a little bit and fix things and whatnot. But there's the stuff that is there is not like revolutionarily new. It's just new because, well, you had to make new pieces for that. So I'm very interested to see in terms of the 30 Ford when that comes out. Remember, it had that sort of bomber interior with the gutted door panels and things like that. And the original version of that, the ones of us who actually got that kit know that all of that bomber interior is molded inverse of itself. All of the raised detailing is sunk. All the sunk detailing is raised. It was like a negative image of what was supposed to be tooled there in the first place. Now, because a lot of the interior pieces on the 29 had to be retooled, I wonder if the 30 insert had to be retooled. I would think that the 30 inserts would have been what was in the tool when it was dropped in the first place, because that would have been what was being run at the time. Hopefully, Revell, if they remembered, if anybody is, you know, was around who could be like, hey, by the way, don't forget, they fixed that, because, you know, inverting those things in CAD is very easy. It's just, you know, clicking a few buttons. I know it's harder than that, but just play along. But in terms of fixing the tooling, it would have been near to impossible, which is why it wasn't done. But if you're going to cut new tooling for those door panels, hopefully they fix that problem. We'll see when that kit comes back out again. So at any rate, that's back out there. I know, you know, bated breath. It was one of the probably the biggest questions we had all throughout 2019 after we came back from NNL East last year and said, hey, they're going to bring this kit back in early 2020. Was, when's that kit coming? When is that kit coming? So it's back out. The only, like I said, really Revell kit we were supposed to get for March that you would have thought might have been tied up in all of the shipping and coveting is the Chevy Love, and that's ironically the one that's made in the United States. So hopefully we'll see it next week, or otherwise it didn't quite make it out the door in time before everything closed. So we shall see where that winds up at. Shan't we? We shan't. So going overseas, like I said, all these things are just reissues. Over at Hasegawa, their last kit for this month that is coming out is a reissue of the Espo LaRousse LC90 1990 Formula 3 car driven by Agori Suzuki. This is, again, just a straight reissue. Over at Aoshima, we have a reissue of this. It is the YN86 Toyota Hilux new old school, so it's the new body. Remember, there is a like 1970s Toyota body or 1980s Toyota body they also have in this series. So this is the new old school. It's a new truck with the old school lowrider look. Then you have a reissue of this, which is the 1992 Toyota Celsior. We, of course, got this here as the Lexus LS400. We also got this here as a model kit because this kit here is the basis of the tooling that was released by AMT back in 1992 or 1993. With photo etch, it was like $11, where model kits were like $6. People lost their minds. Irony. But this is only a Toyota. There are the left-hand drive is not in here, no Lexus parts or anything else like that. I don't understand why. Probably licensing, but, you know, you think they could have sold a few more if they would toss those left-hand drive parts in. I mean, they were not a American Satco thing. They were a Aoshima thing. And again, I actually have in my stack of stuff, because of course I do, a Aoshima boxed version of this as a Lexus. So I mean, the left-hand drive parts belong to them. The windshield for this thing has 4 holes drilled in it for each position of the windshield wipers, depending on which side the steering wheel is on. All these kits got so many of these kits, I should say, got like all of the parts that they had reissued with them, and then for some reason, some of them, and again, I guess it's probably licensing, don't have the left-hand drive parts that they could have come with. So, sticking with Toyotas, over on the VIP van side of things, you got this Toyota Alphard Silk Blaze VIP van making a comeback. This was number 7 of the 2 model car lineup, so it's been around for probably 2 years just getting a restock. And then last but not least, and what is nominally a new boxing, is the reissue of their Lamborghini Aventador, which apparently now no longer has letters and numbers, because this is, the original kit of this was the LP 704 and had a big logo on the front of it. So this is just taking that old kit from, I guess it was probably 2013 at this point, 2012. I'm trying to think when that kit came out. But it's the same kit. Nothing's changed about it. Just has a new box for the new supercar lineup. So that, guys, wraps this one up. Again, like I said, pretty quiet week. Next week, we will, God willing, or coronavirus willing, we'll still be here. We'll still do our August compilation video, or April compilation video. We're going to do an August. I'm going to predict 6 months into the future what model kits we're going to get. No, we'll do the April compilation video because we still expect there to be April kits, at least out of Asia. You guys may have to finally break down and buy some Hasegawa kits if you want to build a new model kit. I'm enjoying that part immensely. But we expect there to be kits in April, of course, and then next Monday will be, of course, our regular weekly video. And right now, I don't think there's too terribly much to expect, because looking at the old Shido stuff here, basically, there's one Tamiya kit that's actually already been released in the United States, but is expected to be released in Japan this month. And then there's a couple of restock Aoshima kits, which may or may not get an actual, because they're restocks and not all every place that gets restocks even mentions getting them in. There is one more reissue in the actual Aoshima kits that hasn't come out yet, so there might be one or two things next week to talk about, unless some of the April stuff pushes out a little early. So I would not necessarily expect that. I expect them to pretty much keep the schedules going the way they are, at least overseas. And yeah, we'll see what goes on. We'll see what goes on as it goes on. Because right now, this stuff changes day by day, if not hour by hour. So anyway, guys, be safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Stay inside, or stay out of crowds. I guess I should say stay inside. Everybody says stay inside. You don't have to stay inside. It's not floating around out in the air. This is not Contagion, where there's some, snowy. Who's watched Chernobyl will get this reference. It's not like the snow is blowing around, showing you where the radiation's going. It's not airborne like that. It's airborne when somebody sneezes on you, because it's literally traveling through the air. And I know it can survive for 3 hours in the air and stuff like that, but you could also get hit by a bus crossing the street at this point. It's not blowing around in the wind, so you don't have to stay inside, but stay at home. And go to the park, walk your dog, do something productive with your lives other than staring at your four walls going crazy. But just take care of yourself. I know a chunk of the YouTube modeling community, hey, and myself included, because I have type 2 diabetes, are in that danger zone, so to speak. So just use your common sense, wash your hands, and all that kind of stuff. So we hope you will be here to see you on the other side.